Oh, goody.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Zombie here again, and today we're back with another Marvel Snap video. So today we got kind of a prediction for the upcoming main patch we're going to be getting probably next Tuesday. There's no confirmation on the exact date, but typically we get that patch leading into the new season on a Tuesday, and it seems likely that's going to be happening next Tuesday. So it's hard to say for sure what cards will be changed or won't be changed or how they'll be changed, but I wanted to make one prediction that I think is likely to happen and talk a little bit about why. And that prediction is a nerf to America Chavez. Now, before we get into all of this, I do want to say I don't think Chavez needs to be nerfed. I don't want her to be nerfed. But nonetheless, I thought this would be a fun topic to cover today because I feel like there have been some questions and answers on the Discord that kind of allude to the fact that they're interested in changing this card. So we're going to talk about those, and we're going to talk about maybe ways they can change. So if you don't know, Chavez has actually been changed a number of times over the past year or so. When she released, she was actually a 6'10 back in beta and was pretty much like one of the best 6-drops in the game, especially when people didn't have access to a lot of the cards in Pool 3 at the time. Her text has also changed over time. Previously, Chavez was a card that you could not draw until turn 6. Even if it got its way to the top of your deck, you would not draw it until the final turn of the game. That text was changed a while ago, and now Chavez is a card that you can actually get before turn 6, as it just starts on the bottom of your deck, but if there's a shuffle effect or something that changes the order, it is possible to draw it before turn 6. However, it does still have that draw on turn 6 text, so you will be guaranteed to get it if you don't find it by then. So the first question and answer here that led to me believing this is going to happen is a little bit of an older one. However, it was one that was followed up on rather recently. So Casper here asks, America Chavez has consistently been a card that players often rely on for early game deck thinning. However, recent data from various websites indicates a remarkable surge in her usage rate. In certain sample intervals, America Chavez has even emerged as the highest play rate card. I am keen to understand the official perspective on this phenomenon. Is there a concern that this may compromise the original purpose of the 12-card deck design? And Glenn says, yep, it is a concern for us. So what they're talking about here is Chavez. The main reason Chavez is being played, and this is confirmed in another follow-up question, is basically so you get your other cards. Most of the time you're playing Chavez is not so you can play a 9-power card on turn 6. You're playing Chavez so you're increasing the likelihood of getting any given card on the earlier turns of the game, which is very powerful in card games in general, and especially powerful in a game where you have such a small, limited deck size. This was especially true around the time of the question being asked. August, September were both months where we saw Chavez reach a really, really high amount of usage. I would argue she's come down a bit since then. I don't think she's finding her way into every deck anymore like she was previously in metas where Kitty was a really, really key card amongst other key cards. She is still seeing a lot of play though, particularly in one of, if not the best deck in the game in Loki, as guaranteeing you have those better odds to get your busted card. Really, really powerful. And sometimes she's not a bad thing to play on turn 6, just as an alternative playline. And here we have a bit more of a recent question asked earlier this month. Recently, the team expressed interest in changing America Chavez for admittedly good reasons. She's overused or a crutch, she's misused in decks, 11-card decks are too much, the game is generous in its card draw chance due to small decks, etc. But I feel like changing Chavez will have negative consequences for some decks. An example, personally, I greatly enjoy Phoenix Force, but when not drawing Phoenix Force, the deck turns into a bad destroy move deck, and my backup options need to be that much more stronger. High risk, high reward, but even when getting my combo, I'm still very vulnerable to tech. This sentiment carries to plenty of other combo decks as well. Things like good card decks and hybrid decks, like Loki Dino, rely less on top decking their best cards and not relying on combos, yet add value every turn. Of course, their power ceiling is lower, but the probability is more on their side. To avoid writing an essay, is the team confident that if Chavez is changed, combo decks won't suffer after having a tool taken away? I think this is a good question, and it's not just combo decks. Obviously, combo decks are one of the main decks that are going to be hurt if an America Chavez is changed, but it's actually a lot more than combo decks. Some decks that come to mind for me, Discard, probably the absolute top of the chart. Discard lives or dies by finding that Apocalypse and the cards that synergize with your discarding stuff early on in the game. Also, she has a very important interaction where getting Chavez guaranteed on turn 6 makes Dracula a lot better, because you can choose to play out the Chavez, have Dracula discard your Apocalypse, get it really big, or you can go the other way around and play out the Apocalypse and have him discard Chavez. This won't work so much anymore if Chavez changes from her current form. Other decks that are impacted here that come to mind to me, aside from combo, are things like Electro Ramp, as well as Lockjaw decks. I think those decks really lean heavily on America Chavez, as they very much need those key early game cards in Electro or other ramp pieces or Lockjaw in order for their deck to actually function and do the thing it's trying to do. So anything that is reducing the chance of you actually getting those cards is really, really bad for the deck, especially so in Lockjaw's case, as Lockjaw not only benefits from her deck thinning, but also her being a big threat that can be pulled out of the deck. Len's response here is no, changing Chavez could harm these decks in the short term. However, we're committed to supporting every deck by both improving existing content where necessary and creating new content in the future. Not really a big fan of these type of responses because they don't really tell us anything, and more recently, seeing how they've been balancing the game, or I guess a lack of balancing the game, it has not been great. And I don't have a huge amount of confidence that if they were to significantly nerf America Chavez, it's going to become a priority to them to find a way to make decks like Discard, Lockjaw, Ramp, or other combo decks like Phoenix Force actually better from this loss afterwards. I just don't see that as being a priority for them to fix, because right now they can't even prioritize balancing the clear outliers in their game. And the last bit here is really just confirming what was previously mentioned about Chavez. This was a question asking about why Chavez was not buffed to a 6/10, so she could still be in Shang-Chi range when the Shang-Chi change happened. And the response was people fairly rarely use 6 energy to play Chavez at all in competitive play. Pretty much just Dracula-based discard. When playing her as a consideration, we felt ducking Shang-Chi would probably be more meaningful than the 10th power. It's a close decision, could turn out either way, but either way, I don't expect a large uptick in America's played on turn 6. I don't actually agree with this all the time. I do think Chavez does get just slammed out as a 6-drop more than he's giving her credit for in competitive play, but I also think it's fine for that not to be the main concern. I think it's better to have her as a thing that dodges Shang-Chi than getting that extra point of power, and ultimately it's probably a minor thing that doesn't make a huge difference overall, since most of the reason decks are playing America Chavez is just for the deck thinning. That's true. So now that we've gone over those, how is Chavez going to change, or what are some changes they could make? I thought about this for a while. I think Chavez is a hard card to change without completely reworking the card, which they could do. They could definitely completely rework this card, in which case I think it's going to be pretty hard to guess. However, my guess for what they're going to be doing to this card is going off of past philosophies. I think there was an interview where they talked about, well, you know, when we nerf a card, we kind of like keeping the high roll potential, but we try and cut off some of the consistency so that even though the effect is still usable, there's more of a downside to it. And that is something I could very much see them doing to America Chavez. Again, I don't want them to do this, but this feels like a second dinner kind of change that I could see them making. And that would be making it so Chavez can only not be drawn on the first, let's say, 3 turns of the game. This would preserve the effect in terms of giving you an increased chance to draw certain cards in the early game on turns 1 through 3. However, after turn 3, you have more of a chance at the downside of running this card in your deck and getting it before it's a viable play. That's really the main change I think would keep kind of the spirit of the card and keep what it's intended to be doing working, but making there be more of a risk downside to running it, since you're not always going to get it on the final turn of the game. And it's going to be more of a downside if you're getting it on turn 4, turn 5, because at least on turn 6, you can actually play it as an option, and you kind of know you're going to be drawing it on turn 6, so you can more adequately play around that with the cards you have in your hand. That's my prediction on Chavez. I'm curious to see what happens. What do you think? Do you think they're going to change Chavez? Do you think they're going to leave her alone? Do you think they're going to change her in this way or a different way? I'd be curious to hear people's ideas in the comments below. Again, I really don't want her to change, but I feel like it is something that has a good chance of happening in either this coming patch or the following one. Talking patch predictions is also a good time to mention we're going to be doing some snap patch bingo. So we're going to be revealing the bingo card we have for upcoming Snap patches. I think this will be fun. We've got some pretty good ones in here. Still working on all the art stuff. We can see our free 3x value space, and I think this will be a fun thing. So if you're interested in that at all, we'll be releasing the bingo sheet probably on the next episode of Born to Be Cosmo, which should be coming up later this weekend ahead of the patch. So that's pretty much it for our Chavez NERF predictions. Worth remembering that these changes they lock in for these patches are done like a month in advance. So I think it is pretty unlikely we're going to be seeing any direct changes that aim at targeting the current metagame we're seeing. That will probably happen in the OTA, which is scheduled to be on the Thursday of the following week after the patch. That's going to wrap it up for this one. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, remember to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.